it's to your benefit to do the work ahead of time and figure out who it is you want to talk to and how you're going to transform their lives with your product or service. And even, I know transformation is a big word. So if your transformation is even like, I'm going to be able to get them a new computer monitor, and the computer monitor is going to make their life so much easier. Or I'm going to be able to get them a toothbrush because their breath smells. The transformation is a really broad category.
You found your way to the Winning Tactics podcast with host Adam Sinkus. Adam discusses winning tactics with small business owners and entrepreneurs, uncovering processes and introducing the tools and solutions for enhancing the bottom line. Thanks again for finding your way to the Winning Tactics podcast. And now your host, Adam Sinkus.
Happy Tuesday, everybody. It is the best day of the week because it is another wonderful episode of the Winning Tactics podcast. As always, I am your host, Adam Sinkus. So glad to have everybody joining us today, especially my guests, because we get to talk about probably hands down one of my favorite topics, one of my favorite things to blast people for. And I know that sounds absolutely terrible, but I promise you will all understand it by the end of the show. So welcome to the show, Megan. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do, and then we'll tease what we're going to talk about.
I love that you're also very judgy about this subject, so I think it'll work out pretty well. So I'm a 5-time award-winning entrepreneur, advanced digital marketing strategist. My goal is to help entrepreneurs develop value-based marketing initiatives that don't feel overwhelming or, like I say, don't feel like homework, and create ride or die customers for life.
I love it. And, people get mad at me for being judgy about how we approach social media, how businesses approach social media. But, I mean, let's be real. There's a lot of really bad advice out there and a lot of really bad things happening on social media, like for instance the massive amounts of follow trains and the small business groups. I'm like, oh my gosh, people, like, I don't need to follow your Instagram. I'm not buying anything from you. It doesn't matter.
Can I tell you, when I was a director of marketing, I would get in fights like go in your corner and have a timeout fight about what social media platforms we were going to be on. So I totally understand that.
So let's start off. Let's start the conversation off with a little bit about, your perspective on the platforms, the different platforms, and some of the benefits that one platform might have in a space over others. So, obviously, we're live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitch, and those all have very vastly different audiences. But we'll start with those three, and then we'll dive down to some of the other ones. So, LinkedIn, what kind of audience are you typically looking at on LinkedIn?
So let me start with a caveat of there are some people who are super disruptive and killing it on all these different platforms, but I'm just going to give a general low-hanging fruit of how these platforms usually work. So LinkedIn is really good for professional services, which, obviously, right? But it's so much better than the other platforms for professional services. So things like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all those things have their place. But LinkedIn, in my opinion, has a perfect niche carved out of delivering the marketing push. Sorry, it's the end of the day, so the words are just blah. The reach of a social media platform, but for a professional service or product, mostly services though. In terms of like who you should be targeting on this is usually somebody that is running from maybe a late millennial to late Gen X. So late 20s, mid 40s is usually the range for this. And this should be really for something that is a service which will get someone to go to the next level in their professional careers.
I love that. 100%. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. The kind of the terms you hear thrown around is B2B. It's the B2B marketplace, but yeah, I'm a huge proponent of LinkedIn. Being in the marketing world, I spend, according to my wife, too much time there. So, but let's talk about Facebook a little bit, because there is groups are huge on Facebook, and there is like a bazillion of them. Where can businesses win on Facebook? What kind of audience should they be looking at targeting on Facebook as opposed to like a LinkedIn per se?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that it's a different strategy altogether, because Facebook, especially like you said with groups, they're pushing groups hard. And ethical things aside, the reason that they're pushing groups very hard is because of tribalism. They want to get people into these designated pockets so that they can advertise specific products to them that fit those pockets. So when you're looking to create an organic strategy on Facebook, it's best to just kind of go with the flow and start a group, but start a group with the intention of having it as a top of funnel system. It's a way to create your community and show that you are present and that you're able to develop a good customer service strategy, but also to show the person behind the product.
I love that for a couple of things you said there. First, you said, take capital from it, right? So take something away from it. Don't just build a group to build a group to say I'm cool and I have a group with 8,000 people in it. In the business world, at least in my experience, you're much cooler if you said, I built a group on Facebook and got 8,000 emails from it. Then I made 8,000 friends on Facebook.
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
So I love that you call that out. It's a strategy that I put in play all the time, which is, just having those barrier to entry questions. That also tends to keep some of the fluff out of your group, in my opinion, as well. Like some of the scammers that go in there and post, I found this creative way to make $500 a day posts, where they spam it all over every post in the group,
First 10 people to DM me. Yeah.
Yeah. So, so it's a good gatekeeper, but it's also bringing you capital, because at the end of the day, you don't own that space on any of these social platforms. You are renting it. And at any given time, I've seen it too many times, they can shut down your account for any number of reasons, and all that goes away.
Absolutely.
Just gone, poof, in a blink of an eye. So the other thing I love that you said is be present. I think this one gets forgotten a lot. And present doesn't just mean posting your own content. I occasionally post the Homer Simpson meme that says, "Hey, look at me," right? And that's what posting content a lot of times is about for people. But I think it's interesting. Being present can also be commenting and engaging your group and asking good questions about what other people are posting, and that it's a different level of being present that provides probably in the long term more value. What are your thoughts on that?
Facebook groups also everybody wants to feel special. Everybody wants to feel unique and important. And so when you, as the owner of the business, or one of your moderators, or, it depends on how big your staff is, when you're answering someone's question or saying that's a great comment or that's a great idea or something, when you're calling someone out, you develop that connection with them that just like you get instant brand loyalty, because you're making them feel special and you're making them feel like they said something of value, which I'm sure they did, but you're calling that out and you're giving them their own little platform in a way. So that develops such instant brand loyalty.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the things that I think is really interesting too is there's a lot of value in just lifting somebody up genuinely just saying, I appreciate you. And when you comment and you give them that, thank you for such a great comment, like that is when it has a genuine selfless approach to it, it becomes very, very powerful. So
Agreed.
So let's shift gears to Twitter, because Twitter is, oh my gosh, Twitter is a beast. I was reading an article not too long ago about how long your post actually lives on Twitter. It's like 12 minutes.
I'm surprised it's that long, honestly. That's
They
wow.
said 70% of engagement happens in the first 6 minutes.
Oh, yikes.
Like, and they had all kinds of, it's crazy. I'm like, I think as a small business owner, you really have to be, you really have to consider what you're willing to invest in a platform like Twitter.
Yeah, agreed. And I think that Twitter is, it can be a cesspool, but if you can do it right, it can be really effective. That said, it takes a lot of effort and a lot of time for engagement. This is something that you definitely want to outsource and hire someone to take care of, because you running the business, trying to generate income and leads and things, it's way too much of a monster, in my opinion. And again, for those who get it right, Twitter can be incredible. But if you are just starting out or you're trying to pick a social media platform, I usually don't recommend Twitter first, because there's other low-hanging fruit available that you can probably get a better in with. What do you think?
I agree wholeheartedly. Really, in my research and in my experience, you pretty much have to have 10 to 12 posts a day on Twitter to be relevant consistently 7 days a week. And let's just be real. Most of us don't have that much time. I mean, I do a bit of this for a living and don't have that much time.
There is something that just thought of that I wanted to point out though. If you are able to get into an app like Missing Letter or Q, which curates posts for you and kind of gets you into their network where other people are promoting your posts for you, that can be effective. But when you're trying to work on the engagement part and building the community, it's just a mess.
Yeah, we will definitely, before the end of the show, we're going to circle back and talk about some of the automation tools out there that help simplify some of this as well, because I think it starts to make social media really reachable for a lot of business owners when they can focus their time on it and not have to be worried about it all the time. So I want to get to Instagram and TikTok, and I want to kind of talk about them together, because you got Instagram Reels, you got TikTok, which is 60-second videos, and they are both huge. And I am seeing some small business owners that are absolutely killing it in both of those spaces. What are your thoughts on Instagram and TikTok from a video perspective?
Well, and also now YouTube Shorts. YouTube now has their own. Yeah, it's just everybody's jumping on it. So Instagram and TikTok are great platforms for product-based businesses. Less so TikTok, though. What I've found with TikTok is that my theory with social media is that you need to go where your people are and use the platform the way that they use it. So when you're looking at something like TikTok, people normally aren't going on there for products or for things like that. They're going for funny videos, for inspiration, for things like that. So if your business can tie into that in an organic way, and you're targeting Gen Z to early millennial, then TikTok can be really effective for you. If that feels like a lot of work and you're getting stressed out about it already, I'd say don't spend your time on TikTok right now. It has its place, but I haven't seen a lot of businesses be able to effectively monetize it unless they're selling something like TikTok courses on how to be better at TikTok. It's that snake eating itself loop.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's an interesting perspective to bring into it, and it does take effort. And and a lot of people I think are afraid of it. I know a lot of people are afraid of video. I would say seven out of 10 people that I ask about if you've ever done video content, they're like emphatically like, no, I don't do things on camera.
And that is to their detriment. I mean,
I know it.
Everyone's so afraid, myself included. I was terrified to get on video. I didn't want to like, oh God, people are going to judge me or people are going to think my face is weird or something. And it's just like, nobody cares, honestly. And you getting started is the main point of it. Just get on video and get over that hurdle and realize that in the beginning, nobody's really going to be paying attention. So nobody cares about your face. But the more people that you get to start paying attention to you, the more that people are going to love what you have to say and love your business, because especially now, people buy from people, right? They're not just buying from companies. They want to know who's that person that's creating it. Why did they start doing this? What is the thing that's going to make me want to pick you over somebody else? Well, it's how I connect with you. And it's, now even more than ever, values and morals and the way that you position your business in the marketplace. That's what video does so much more effectively than a tweet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. Like, and I think this ties into the next place I wanted to go, which is Clubhouse, because it's like it. I don't know if I went down the rabbit hole with Clubhouse like bad when I first got invited. Like, I think I spent like the almost 26 hours in the first 3 days I was on the platform, like engaged, like legitimately engaged in it.
They were so thrilled you were there, I'm sure.
Oh yeah. It was bad. It was awesome, but it was bad. But it's interesting, right? You talk about people doing business with people, and Clubhouse has taken all the typed content out of the picture.
Yeah.
Wholeheartedly. You are a picture and a voice on Clubhouse. And like, so I listen to like a podcast now for probably about 4 hours a day. I found structure, and I'm only gonna participate for 40 minutes a day on Clubhouse.
Have you been able to do that effectively?
For the most part, I picked up 40 minutes. I'm gonna be engaged because there's some shows and some hosts that I really do enjoy the way they run rooms. But it's interesting when you get into these rooms how organic conversation between perfect strangers starts to become. Have you gone down?
I've done it once because I was invited to come into a room, but I put a line in the sand and said I'm not going on it because I can't go on another one. I can't keep getting my heart broken and I can't do it anymore. The main beef that I have with Clubhouse is that there's no like recordings, which is great for Clubhouse. I think that's a really brilliant thing. It was like, when Periscope started. But as someone who's in the marketing space who uses a lot of their stuff over and over again, like it's really hard for me to kind of justify letting go of good stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get that. I totally get that. But on the same token, I've made so many like amazing connections with people
that's awesome.
Like if I went and just like reached out to them randomly on LinkedIn, like I would have never ever, they would have laughed that conversation right off of their messenger feed, but because I've been in rooms that they've been in, engaged and provided value to them, after the show, I'll get I'll get a ping, or I'll ping them and, just thank them and then all of a sudden we have a full conversation. And again, I'm opening up conversations with people that, I probably wouldn't otherwise have access to, Grant Cardone, which, as much as I'm not a fan of his, he does pitch rooms like 3 days a week. And like literally he just opens it up and he brings a panel of investors on there, and you have like 60 seconds to pitch, and like they legit make deals off of it.
See, and that's fantastic. I think that if you can find the value in a social media platform, then rock hard, like go for it. I just like, for me, I think Clubhouse is great. I'm not dissing it at all. It's just that I was just in like, I can't do anymore. I can't be this person who goes on all these. I have to be where my people are, and I have to just, push that to the max. I should, like, if I had my business coach on here, she'd be like, you need to be on Clubhouse yesterday. And I just, you got to be like, no, I don't want to play anymore.
I get it. And I love that. We're going to pause for just a minute. When we come back, we're going to start talking about how we should be focusing our time, effort, and energy, because I think that's the next really critical piece of this conversation. So we're going to pause for just a moment, because I totally want to thank Cowork Hub Virtual. They participate in supporting our show by they're really just an awesome platform. It is a virtual office platform. They're giving consultants, coaches, freelancers, and solopreneurs a sense of place in a remote work world. What I love about this platform is, like, I log on in the morning and it feels like I'm going to the office. I do all my video meetings in there, and have great conversations. I can walk down the hall and talk to other people that are on the platform. We have a break room space that looks totally different than my office. So, it's much more casual. We got conference rooms, and you feel like you're going to different places along the space. So super, super cool. And, it's cheaper than Zoom. So, you totally recommend checking it out. Go check them out, coworkhubvirtual.com. Let them know that you saw it on the Winning Tactics. You can get a free branded background for your office. They'll put your logo on there, whatever you want it to look like. They have a whole bunch of templates that you can use. So super, super cool platform. But back to the conversation. One of my biggest gripes is, like, the Gary V's of the world that are like, you've got to be everywhere 25,000 times a day, all the time. And I'm like, that is the dumbest advice I've ever heard, because people take it so literally. But they don't realize, like, that Gary Vee has like a team of like 100 plus like 3 people that follow him around with a camera 24/7.
Yeah. And I think we talked about this before, of just like, I get what he's doing, and he has some really valid points. His books were very good, but just there's so much that's behind the curtain that he's not showing, that I think it puts a lot of people, especially solopreneurs, end of the day, like I said, and solopreneurs, at a real big disadvantage, because they're not seeing the whole picture with him.
Yeah. How much, I always ask myself, how much time can I really afford to spend sitting on a social media platform, right? Because it takes time to write a post, to make a graphic for that post, to post that post, and then think about how I'm going to change it for the other platforms, so that all takes some time. And then I got to go back after the fact, as people are engaged on it, and be engaged with them on it, because that's far more important than the post ever was. Post is just a conversation starter. And so by the time you start to add all that up, if you're running, 4 or 5 platforms all day, every day, like, that's a good solid, like, 5-6 hours worth of work, like, easy.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So, how do you go about picking platforms?
That's an excellent question. And we kind of touched base on this a little bit, but the easiest thing that I have found is figure out who your avatar is. Who is your ideal person? Like, even give them a name, make them your imaginary friend. Like, just nail that all down. And then look at the platforms that most likely fit in that demographic. The good thing about most of these platforms is that they're public companies. So they list all of this information on their website. So if you Google like Instagram demographics, their Instagram will pop up with all of that information. So you're able to kind of pinpoint, okay, Adam, my avatar Adam he would probably be over here. So when you figure that out, we'll just use Pinterest, for example. So we'll say like, we figured out that our ideal customer is on Pinterest a lot. They really like Pinterest. That's where they shop, all of this stuff. So how do they use Pinterest? Are they using the Pinterest story feature? How do they use that? Are they looking at videos on Pinterest? Are they looking for products, or are they looking for blog posts? How do they use the system? Then you start to use the system in a way that reaches them in the most organic way possible. It's never my goal to get my clients to advertise. I like to start with organic strategies because that way you know who you're talking to, you know what your message is, and when you do decide to advertise, it's going to save you so much money later on. So once you're able to figure out, okay, I know that Adam's on Pinterest. Adam really loves looking at marketing stuff. So I'm going to start putting out marketing-based topics on Pinterest and start tracking that data and see how that works. And then once you're able to see that, usually about, I don't know, a month to 6 weeks, you can start to kind of see if this trickle is coming in. And then you can either pivot if it's not working, or if it is working, go harder on it and start delivering more value to Pinterest.
Yeah, no, I love that. So many people, let's talk about the avatar thing for a second, because this is like a lot more granular than most people think, and it's way more important than most people think as well.
And so many people don't do it. So many don't.
I know. It's, my favorite answer is when somebody's, I'm like, so who's your target audience? They're like, everybody.
Whoever will pay me. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, well, that's great. But is homeless Joe that doesn't have a dime to his name your target audience?
Right.
No. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what about Rich Betty that drinks, $1,000 bottles of champagne and has the finest jewelry and a 300-foot yacht? Is she your target audience?
Right.
Well, no, I'm never going to talk to her. Okay. So it's not everybody then,
Right.
and this is so frustrating to me, because once you figure out who you want to talk to, if you try and message everybody, you're really going to message nobody.
Yeah.
But once you start to figure out who you really want to talk to, who you should be talking to, messaging becomes like a lot easier.
Absolutely. And especially think of slang. Think of the way that Gen Z talks versus baby boomers talk. That is completely different vernaculars. So the way, when you're able to nail down who you're talking to, it makes it so much easier for you. And to your point about if you're selling to everybody, you're getting the Karens in there too, right? You're getting the people who are just going to be such headaches for you and such wastes of your time. So it's to your benefit to do the work ahead of time and figure out who it is you want to talk to and how you're going to transform their lives with your product or service. And even, I know transformation is a big word. So if your transformation is even like, I'm going to be able to get them a new computer monitor, and the computer monitor is going to make their life so much easier. Or I'm going to be able to get them a toothbrush because their breath smells. The transformation is a really broad category. But once you're able to figure that out, it's so much easier. It's so much easier to sell and to market.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. You were talking about like Pinterest, like what types, like there's so many things that you have to consider, like, in any of the platforms, like what kind of content do they naturally consume? Right. When do they consume that content? That's another thing that I think often gets overlooked as well. I just did a study on that for a nonprofit that I'm working with. And, nice. Just looking at all of their posts, when do they get engagement? What does the audience profile look like from a time standpoint to go, when do we have the best opportunity to actually reach people, right? And what was interesting I found about that was that there was two windows per day. There was a morning window, and then there was like a dinner time window, but they were two very different audiences.
Oh,
the the morning window was like 25 to like 35, full-time employed, and tended to spend most of their time on the weekend, midday, surfing social media. But during the week, they were like 8 or 7:30 to like 9:30.
So when they're on like public transit going to work or something.
Public transit, getting ready for work,
Mm-hmm.
things like that, right? But the 5 o'clock crowd was like 50 to 65. And they were engaged different ways. They were engaged more in text posts than video posts, and longer. They had a better audience for longer posts. So it's like all these like little things that we started to learn about, like going, how do we target everybody? That in these two groups. So,
right.
Now we took that and have applied that to a strategy that really starts to play. Morning posts are they're quick hits. They're more like meme based, graphic based stuff that people can like quickly scroll through as they're getting ready for work, getting in the car, on their way to work, and commuting, things like that. And then in the afternoon, we're doing our beefy, longer posts that people are spending time reading. So
yeah, that's really cool. That's a great system.
Yeah. So, it's that to me was really interesting when we started to dive deeper into just looking at because you can get those analytics off of Facebook right now. I know they are going away to a point. I don't think they're going to completely go away. I just think they're going to simplify them, because I think they're going to get an uproar. They already are getting an uproar from the marketing community and the business community about it. So I don't think they're going to completely go away. I just think they're going to simplify. Which probably isn't a bad thing. All in all,
depends on how nerdy you want to get, I guess.
I know. I'm trying not to get super, super nerdy, but
it's marketing, man. You got to be nerdy. It's great.
I know. So, but to get to get back to it, thinking about it's about, we got to think about things like what type of content, when we're posting that during the day. Is our audience even there at that time of the day that we want to post it? Are they on other platforms as well? What's your thought on driving your audience to a singular platform from other platforms? I've heard mixed feelings on this. If your platform of choice is like LinkedIn, right? Is it, do you drive your Facebook and your Instagram audience there as well?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So in my experience, history tells us that it's best to get the data to ourselves as much as we can. So what I usually recommend people do is utilize as few daisy chains as possible to get people to either your email list or your website, or texting, whatever, however you're going to market to them, because these platforms change all the time and they are beholden to their advertisers, not to the people using their platforms for free. So, the more that you can control the means of people getting into your sales funnel, the better options you have. Now, that said, I do know of people, and I've done this too, where you start with a YouTube channel and you drive people to your Facebook group, because that continues the conversation. So if you're able to chain the platforms together in such a way that it's an organic flow of more connection to you, then it's a good idea. But the end goal should always be to get them onto your own platform in whatever vein that is.
Yeah, no, I love that. And we hinted on that earlier when we were talking about, social media's rented space. Yeah. So got to find a way to own that. I'm another nerd moment. I'm actually in the process of downloading all 3,000 some odd contacts I have on LinkedIn right now, and making sure I have that all statically captured in place.
That's fantastic. You get a gold star in marketing today for that one. That's awesome.
It is a huge task.
Because
3,000 connections is a lot of friggin' people.
that's a lot of data. But just imagine if LinkedIn was like, nah, you don't get it
Yeah,
anymore. Then you'd
I
be
know.
like, I should have got it.
So let's shift a little bit more because I want to start to wrap up here.
Yep.
I want to talk about a little bit about automation tools, because there's like some parts of it that are really taboo,
Yeah.
and there's other parts of it that are really good. So like I don't know if your LinkedIn feed or even now my Facebook feed is getting bad like this too. My Messenger is wrought with sales pitches, cold, hard sales pitches that are terrible.
Bots everywhere. I know.
So let's talk a little bit about bots. What are they, and from your understanding, how do they work and how do they not work?
I feel like I'm gonna give you an answer, and tomorrow it's just gonna be completely outdated because it all keeps changing. Like, just as a side note, I've been playing with this AI thing, GPT-3 or GTP-3. I can't remember what the thing is. Have you tried any of this at all?
I have not yet.
Oh my! So it is AI that can write blog posts or social media posts or things like that. And before you know, it would be like totally not robots, like, good evening, customer, I have things. But now they are getting so advanced and so terrifying that I'm like, are we ever going to write blog posts anymore? We're just going to do this. So bots are, in a way, an excellent tool to have to keep people in your sales funnel. They can lift the load with answering questions, FAQs, order statuses, things like that, getting you to the next step of, just being in the know phase and getting them into the like and trust phase. Those are really good ways to utilize bots. The danger that people do with bots is that they outsource the whole thing to something that's automated. And again, this goes back to people buy from people. And so many of us are putting up our blinders that whenever we feel the whisper of something automated and something that doesn't feel natural, we just shut off and we go somewhere else. And so they have their place, but I think that people should think of chatbots or AI as supplemental to your message, which should be from you authentic. What do you think about them?
I agree. I think there's some great implications for them to be supplemental support. But you should not be using bots to make your first contact with somebody. You should not be using bots to connect with 500 people a day, which I'm so glad that LinkedIn finally shut down, that now you can only get 100 people a day on LinkedIn, or up to 400 per week. So they've really clamped down on that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that that's really important. But to your point, some of the blog and the social content creator bot stuff that's out there is starting to get really, really powerful. In a way, it's kind of scary because it kind of says well, my job could potentially be replaced by a piece of software. But that being said, it still takes somebody to know what inputs to put into that software to make it work. So I think bots are okay as long as you understand what they really should be used for, and that's not outreach and building your network. That's keeping your network warm is probably the way I would put it.
Yeah, and I'm a realist. I know that it's probably the PR move to say never use a bot and never use automation, but we're all busy people. We've all got a lot of stuff to do. So I understand that they are very appealing and they have their place. But I think that the danger comes when you start relying solely on the bot. And think about, to your point with LinkedIn, the more bots that people start using on Facebook, Instagram, any social media platform, the more you're going to piss off that platform because no one likes that experience. It turns people off. And if so many people are getting this on LinkedIn or Facebook, they're going to start leaving the platform. So that's going to force Facebook, LinkedIn's hand to shutting this down. So that's another way I like to caution people in thinking like it might feel like, oh, well, thank God something else can do all of this for me. It can. You probably shouldn't, because that's just going to add to the mountain of problems that eventually shut it down.
Yep.
And then we're all back at square one.
Yeah, no, I agree. And the social networks will find ways to shut it down. So, because they want more users. So, let's shift gears one more time to, I want to talk about like Hootsuite and Later and all those posting scheduling platforms. I know, Facebook's integrated platform is pretty darn nice. But like LinkedIn and Twitter and Instagram don't have that same luxury. And like Instagram, you can't even post from your computer. So, so what are your thoughts on those platforms? Good idea, bad idea? Should we be taking advantage of them?
Yes. End of question, or end of answer. Yes. I think that, in the beginning, or even last year, there was a lot of stigma against scheduling. And I understand why. Instagram wants you on the app. They can't sell ads if you're not on the app. And so people that are posting organically are going to get more algorithm favor than someone using a scheduler. That said, Facebook has now opened up Instagram auto posting for anybody who wants to build an app. So Later now has the ability to plan, Hootsuite, Buffer. Like if they have an Instagram feature, it can now auto post. So I think that the scheduling of posts is totally fine. And for the record, like I just finished this whole series on putting Instagram scheduling apps against each other to see which ones work best for solopreneurs. And it's on my YouTube channel. But I recognize the value that they have in lightening the load, but should not use them for engagement because, again, they want you on the app. They want you on the app because they want to sell ad space. The longer they can keep you on the app, the more ads they can show. So if you're posting with a scheduling app, what I recommend people do is get like a notification, put the notification settings on your phone so you know when something goes out, and then go engage. Go like respond to comments. I know their comments aren't going to be that fast, but go respond to comments on your last post or keep that conversation going. So again, like bots, I think that automation has its place as a supplemental tool for lightening that whole load that you have to do in marketing, but mix it with some sort of organic activity too.
Absolutely fantastic. I love it. I could talk for hours on this, but alas, people have lives too.
What? People don't talk about marketing all the time? Are you kidding?
So I always like to wrap up my show with some final thoughts. It's that one thing that somebody could take away from everything that we've talked about and go apply to their business tomorrow. So I leave the floor to you for your final thoughts.
No pressure, huh? The easiest thing that I can tell an entrepreneur at any stage of their business is marketing does not have to be a black hole. All it has to be is finding a way to find that ideal person whose life is transformed with your product and then having a conversation with them. That's all that is. It doesn't have to feel salesy. It doesn't have to feel weird or gross or whatever negative connotations you're having. All marketing is about is having the conversation and changing someone's life with your product or service. So all you have to do, go find that person, tell them how you'll change their life, and then go do it.
Absolutely love that. No truer words have been said about marketing ever. Maybe. I don't know.
I expect that carved on some sort of stone or monument then.
So where can people find you?
You can find me on my website, meganbrame.com. I actually have a free marketing spreadsheet, a marketing audit spreadsheet that you can use. I use it with all of my clients. It breaks down your marketing goals into quarterly segments so you know where you're doing things and where you should not be doing things and keep yourself accountable. You can get that on meganbrame.com/marketing audit. It's totally free. You can find me on Instagram at Stop Sucking at Business, and my podcast, which is also called Stop Sucking at Business.
Absolutely fantastic. We'll make sure we get links to all of that in the show notes for everybody. We appreciate. I really appreciate your time. Like I said, I mean, I could nerd out about this stuff for hours upon hours upon hours. But I appreciate everybody that stuck around with us. Those of you that are catching the replay, remember the replay can be found on all the major podcast networks as well as YouTube every Thursday, usually during the middle of the day sometime when I get around to posting it and after all the fires have been put out in the morning. So I appreciate you, and I appreciate everybody else that joined us today. Have a wonderful rest of your week.
Well, that wraps up yet another episode of the Winning Tactics Podcast. You can find Adam on both the LinkedIn and Facebook platforms. And to support the show and ensure the success of the podcast, would you kindly consider visiting Patreon.com/Adam Sinkus? We greatly appreciate it. And until next time, from the Winning Tactics Podcast, remember, culture is how your team behaves when no one is looking. Take good care, and thanks for listening.